family? It's your boy SNTV, back at y'all with another Chiraq Street Legends. And this episode is going to be about none other than Devontae Brownlee, aka Bando Bandz.
Just in case if I see her off, I bought the thing with me. Whole squad full of killers, it ain't the lane with me.
You know how we coming, man. Gang in this bitch, nigga. Full
Definitely
them.
out here.
Out on them blocks, boy. You know where we at, boy. Don't be no fool. Bitches out here, boy. I'm full them, boy.
Bandz comes from that Face World set. Their main blocks are Tallman and Western, 69th and 70th. They're BDs. They're real cool with the other Face World, also known as Newz Gang. Newz Gang is located on 79th and Stewart. They're GDs. They both ended up getting their name from a guy that ended up being killed by Baco Hood that went by the name of Face. Apparently, Face was from 79th, and he would later go over to 69th. So both hoods would take his name in his honor after he died. Face World is also known as Jado City, Marty Gang, 1017, and the Bando Boys. The name 1017 is also like a tribute to Face because it's his death date. He died October 17th, 2010. Their allies are D Gang, Rick Block, M Block, C Block, LDM, and 1140, which consists of Doom Squad, Hit Squad, and Scrapville.
Hey man,
Doom Squad out here and everything, bitch.
GDK and all that. What's up for
They beef with Brick Squad, BSC, T Block, and the Deuce, but their main ops are Baco Hood.
And we still off the drink.
Yeah, we on our block, nigga. Upper 8 walk, nigga. Fuck you talking about, nigga.
Bandz, who was only 13 when Face died, would end up getting involved heavily in the streets. But before him and his friends would become a factor in the streets, they were cut up in school.
No level in this bitch. All in school, you know what I'm saying? Face real shit.
This little game, buddy.
On March 8th, 2012, Bando would lose a good friend of his, a guy that went by the name of Josh. Bando was only 14 years old at the time.
Bogus, 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 bogus. Won't no nigga hit our cuz because my niggas focus.
A 16-year-old boy was pronounced dead this afternoon after being shot in the Marquette Park neighborhood on the south side. Joshua Williams of the 7000 block of South Tolman Avenue was shot in the head at about 4:14 p.m. Williams was shot on the 2600 block of West Lithuanian Plaza Court, according to police and the Cook County Medical Examiner's office. Police said he was shot multiple times after a verbal altercation with two people at that location. He was pronounced dead at the scene a short time after the shooting, according to the Cook County Medical Examiner's office. Police are conducting a homicide investigation. Face World will take up the name Jado City in his honor. Christmas Day, 2012, 9 months after the murder of his friend and 3 months after his 15th birthday, Bando Bandz' name would come up in a situation that occurred with a dude on a bus, a guy that went by the name of J Loud. And the story goes, J Loud was on a bus with a JoJo World hoodie on. He was asked by some members of Face World to take the hoodie off. J Loud didn't take the hoodie off. When the bus stopped at J Loud's stop, J Loud would get off the bus and try to run. J Loud would end up being shot. According to the streets, Bando Bandz was present on the scene. Just by Bando Bandz' name being one of the names that came up, this would make his name even more hotter than it already was. He was already a op to CMB, Brick Squad, and many more. Now his name was coming up in murders.
J Loud got me high. Ever since we lost Lil Josh, every day it's a hunt now. Flame up, I need a blunt now. And if I catch a op, he getting gunned down.
After Bando began seeing people around him that was his age and younger dying, he would begin to get more involved in the war. Now he was a full-fledged BD, willing to slide, ride, and go and get that get back. But he also had a love for rap music. Bando would begin rapping around the age of 15 or 16. As soon as Bando would drop, Bando would immediately begin to get recognition.
Shot, niggas getting dropped, I can merge that. Got a thigh, holding on the Glock, what that person?
Slide through, off a pill, get the bustin' at your mama. Boy, just quit it, y'all ain't winning, y'all just claim what we invented.
Tired of these niggas yelling that squad shit. If y'all don't need no squad is. Name one crime that you committed. Stop.
Who done let that goofy get the gun? Hey, you ain't water whipping, you not in the kitchen, little nigga, so how you gon' eat? Tryna run.
Now Face World had a well-loved member that can actually rap. The only problem was, Bandz did a whole lot of dissing, and as the views began to pile up, he began to get more popular, which means his ops will begin to hear more and more of his music, dissing they dead homies. The more music Bandz will put out, the bigger the target he will become.
Fuck all that talking, but go do a drill. Hey man, we been smoking jocks for some years. This shit cannot change, it is what it is. We smoking they homies, they killing little kids.
I'm still in the trap though, meet me at the back though. All these damn pounds got me feeling like a fat hoe.
Bandz would eventually begin to take music more serious, but he still had a dilemma. He had one foot in the studio and one foot in the streets. With the war going on and Baco Hood dissing from the other side, it was hard for Bando Bandz to stop dissing. Bando Bandz will continue to be in the streets and do music at the same time. Inevitably, the two will begin to conflict. Just as well as his ops knew who he was, the police also knew who he was. Bando Bandz will end up getting locked up a few times. Bandz will end up getting into an altercation with a guy, and he will end up beating him half to death, putting him in a coma. He would be locked up for an assault and battery. Then while he was locked up, he would end up getting into it with a guy for trying to take his glasses off of his face. He would also send this guy to the infirmary. About a year and a half later, Bando Bandz would end up getting out of jail. He would beat the case. The charges would be dropped.
Fresh out the can, ain't going back. Nigga sneak this and tell me something so I know it's that.
Bandz would get right back out and continue to make music, but he wouldn't get far. Bandz would make like 3 songs, and then he himself would end up being killed. Devontae Brownlee was driving Sunday afternoon in the far south side Fernwood neighborhood when 2 vehicles started to follow him. When people in those other vehicles started shooting, the 19-year-old suffered a fatal wound to the neck. It was just after 2 p.m. when Brownlee was driving in the 106 block of South Purnell Avenue. 2 vehicles began following him, and the people inside those vehicles began shooting at him. After being struck in the neck, Brownlee crashed into multiple parked vehicles before coming to a stop. He was taken to Christ Medical Center in Oakland, where he was pronounced dead at 2:58 p.m. He lived in the West Pullman neighborhood. The other vehicle sped away after the shooting, and no one is in custody. After the death of Bando, Face World will begin going by the Bando Boys in his honor. Certain members would also begin to put Bando in front of their name in his honor. Bando Bandz was a very good rapper, and he did his thing in the streets. Bando Bandz probably had a lot of people that were famous that could put him in a different position, paying attention to him and his music before he died. That's how those record execs and those A&Rs do. They sit back and they watch artists and they let them build up. And then when they build up to a certain point, the label will come and get them. Well, obviously, somebody knew who Bando Bandz was because rapper Lil Boosie actually gave him a shout out.
You already know what it is. R.I.P. Bando, you already know. From Boosie Badass, you watching us right now. 100.
I think that what we can learn from the story of Bando Bandz is this. A lot of times, looking in from the outside, we don't realize that to a lot of these guys, music is just an outlet. Music is like a hobby to them. They don't really take it serious. A lot of them don't have time to take it serious because it's so much street shit that's going on around them, to the point to where if they take their focus off of this, they can possibly end up dead. In Bando Bandz case, he had a lot of talent and he could have made it. He was also different and he wasn't scary, which would have made him a very, very good investment for somebody to get in the industry. Because you can't be scary going into the industry. You have to take your chances. And I feel like Bando Bandz would have been a good chance to take. When it comes to the streets, there is no 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Either you all the way in the streets or you not. Also, Bando Bandz got caught in the hundreds in a situation to where 2 cars pulled alongside of him and both cars began to shoot. This sounded like a setup, but it could have possibly been people that were just randomly riding and seen Bando Bandz and decided to try something. If you have beef in the city of Chicago, do not ride around the city of Chicago in a fishbowl. Get tint. I don't care what nobody say. A lot of people say, well, if you pull up in certain areas with tint on your windows, they gonna automatically shoot it up. This is not true. You have a better chance with tinted windows than you do in a fishbowl. Because if you pull through with tinted windows, they're less likely to shoot it up versus your ops seeing you and knowing exactly who you are. They gon' shoot it up. They gon' pull up. They gon' try something. Guaranteed. See, when you pull up with them tinted windows, you have to let the window down in order for them to really just feel like, oh, this car is finna do something, or this is one of my ops. Especially if they don't know your car. You know you're gonna be riding around the city and you don't have money to flip your cars, you don't need to be gangbanging. Because riding around the city in the same car is for sure gonna eventually get you killed. Especially if you go into these areas where a lot of people are seeing you. This has been the story of Bando Bandz. Until next time, it's your boy, SNTV.
Couple niggas that I treat like my brothers, live on the streets, man, this shit with each other.